everyone and welcome back to an interview with Mr. Rajesh Talwar. This is your host Ananya Sharma. Today we are going to discuss the book The Vanishing of Subhash Bose, the mystery unlocked for the last time. So Rajesh, last time we discussed about Justice Mukherjee's report. So can you tell us what were the challenges faced by him?
Yes, Ananya. Justice Mukherjee had a lot of challenges. The first thing, of course, he asked the government, please provide me with documents pertaining to various files. This commission was appointed by the A.B. Vajpayee government, and so it was hoped that there's a non-Congress government, they will be very cooperative with Justice Mukherjee, but they were not. And Justice Mukherjee kept on asking for documents. They kept on saying, we don't have any documents, we don't have any files. As it turns out, today we know that there were hundreds of files, there were thousands of documents, so the government was lying in its teeth. But they continued to obstruct the justice. One department would say the files are with someone else, the Parliamentary Affairs Committee would say they are with the Intelligence Bureau would say they are with the Home Ministry. So they just kept passing the buck on. And Justice Mukherjee could unfortunately not get much cooperation. That's a shame because it shows also that there was no cooperation across all political parties. That's why I say that, across all political parties there was non-cooperation with the unraveling of the truth, trying to find out what really happened. For example, when the case was filed, the left front government, they said, oh, the centre must release all the files, the centre must provide all the papers. But the left front government could have easily, with one stroke of the signature of the chief minister, ordered dozens of files with the state government to be declassified. Thousands of papers could have been produced from the state government archives. So it was very disingenuous. So, of course, the Congress can be blamed, but the BJP can also be blamed. The left front in power at the time can also be blamed. They are asking the centre to release the files. They have files themselves. Why didn't they produce them to Justice Mukherjee for him to, read through? And even Madam Mamata Banerjee, she was in power for a long time. No files were produced, no papers were, given till now. All these things have been hidden. So it's a shame. But this was not the only problem that Justice Mukherjee faced. The government was not cooperative. Then he decided to try and find out things in other countries. So he went to England, he went to the United States, he went to Russia. When he went to England, he found some files that could provide him with useful information. And so he requested the British government, can you give me these files? And the British government said, no, we can't give you the files straight away. Please ask the Indian government to write to us, and then we might consider giving you those files. So Justice Mukherjee wrote to the Indian government. Indian government said, okay, we'll write to the British. It's not clear whether they did so, but they told the judge at any rate that we have done our bit. But the British government still refused to, produce those files. Now, had those files been produced, it's not very clear whether that would have solved the mystery of Mr. Bose's disappearance, of whether there was a crash or not, because there were other files that the British would have wanted to keep secret. It's no secret, that the British, they carried out numerous assassination attempts on Subhash Bose, because he was creating an army against them. He was creating, more important than that, an idea against them that the British can be resisted physically, and this could, spark conflagrations across the globe. So, British historians have now revealed that there were numerous attempts to get rid of Subhash Bose. So maybe some of those files were pertaining to those assassination attempts, and the British may have felt that it's not very good for us to be releasing these papers. It will spoil our relations with India. So we don't know the truth of that. Anyhow, Justice Mukherjee tried in England, then he went to the United States, he went around different parts of the US looking at documents, looking at archives, libraries, but there was no progress. He went to Russia, hoping that he'd be able to find out something in Russia. Again, there was no progress. But he was very hardworking, he was very sincere, so he decided that, okay, let me try and see if the DNA of the ashes kept, the ashes which everybody claimed that these belong to Subhash Bose, which are stored in an urn in Renkoji Temple in Japan. I've been to the temple during my visit to Japan, and I've seen the place where the ashes are allegedly stored. So he said, well, let's do a DNA comparison, because DNA technology has advanced. So he spent a lot of time trying to get some of the samples across to various authoritative people to see if there could be a comparison and it could be determined whether these ashes belong to somebody connected with the Bose family. You know, the Bose family was a large family, so DNA would have been easily accessible. But in the end, it appeared that the ashes were too badly burnt. The bones had been too badly destroyed for a proper DNA investigation to take place. So as a consequence, there also, there was no progress. But finally, there was a breakthrough.
So what was the breakthrough?
Finally, there was a breakthrough, Ananya, and his efforts yielded fruit. This breakthrough happened in Taipei, in Taiwan, where the alleged crash was supposed to have taken place. You know, the interesting thing is that the first commission, the Shah Nawaz Commission, was never permitted by Nehru to visit Taiwan. He was never permitted to go to the site of the crash and see what was the proof on the ground. And Nehru made some excuses. And the second commission, which was appointed by Indira Gandhi, Justice G.D. Khosla, it went to Taiwan, but it did not speak to the Taiwanese authorities. It did not speak to the Taiwanese people. So Justice Mukherjee, there were no reason for him not to go to Taiwan, because in fact Taiwan is more friendly towards India than China is. Indians don't even need a visa to go to Taiwan. They can just sort of apply for it online and show that they have some other, important visa, and they can go. That's how I went to Taiwan. So Justice Mukherjee went to Taiwan, and then he met with the Taiwanese authorities, and they said, listen, no such crash took place. He was astonished. He said, there was no crash. How do you know there's no crash? He said, well, if there's a crash, then it will be reported in the newspapers. Surely. And on the date you mentioned, at the time you mentioned, there was no air crash anywhere there in the capital city of Taiwan, or especially not near the airport, where the old airport was. So Justice Mukherjee was astonished. He said, could there be, a kind of thing that there's something wrong with the date, that 1 or 2 days before there was some crash, or 1 or 2 days after there was some crash, there could have been some kind of misreporting. The Taiwanese said, no, we have checked our archives. There is no report of any crash 10 days before the alleged date, and there is no report of any crash 10 days after the alleged date. So that gap of 20 days, there is no air crash taking place. So Justice Mukherjee, because he wanted to be very thorough, he said, well, if you say this, can I see your archives? And they said, no problem, go and see our archives. So he spent some time going through the National Archives in Taiwan, and he saw what the Taiwanese were saying were true. There was no report of any crash. If such an important crash had taken place, surely the Taiwanese would report it. Why would they not report it? The point also is that there is a report of another crash which took place near the airport, but that is 1 month after the incident. So, and that concerned some US people, a US aircraft. So there was obviously nothing that had happened. It was all a cooked up business, and no crash, so therefore no death was possible, not only of Subhash Bose but of anybody else who it had been alleged had died in that said crash. I should say also here that the Taiwanese are a very meticulous people. So they are not so ill-disposed towards Japan, and as one would imagine, because Japan was the, had colonized them. Unlike Korea, the Taiwanese actually hold the Japanese in great regard, and although they are ethnic Chinese, they have one similarity with the Japanese. They are very, very meticulous people, and the Chinese are also very meticulous. So all the data, everything was microfilmed, everything was carefully stored. There was no question of any crash having taken place, and why would it not be reported?